Welcome to the Exit Rich podcast, where the leading authority on buying, selling, fixing, and growing companies, Seiler Tucker, is dedicated to helping you find the path to retire rich and move on to your next adventure by exiting your business for the desired dream price you deserve. Get ready to exit rich with your host, Seiler Tucker.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of Exit Rich. So last time on Exit Rich, we had a very special guest, Byron Young, who, by the way, is back on the Exit Rich podcast, not back on Shark Tank, but back on the Exit Rich podcast. And so last time we really explored conversations with Byron about his episode with Shark Tank and, you know, the good, the bad, the ugly. And then we talked about how he got to deal with Lori, and that deal shifted, but was really a good pivotal editors was really help increase his business exponentially. And today, buckle up because it's going to be another fast ride as we're going to share a lot of valuable content. And Byron's going to talk to you about the ups and downs of business and how you have to have a lot of perseverance, never give up, and learn. The biggest thing that we're going to talk about today is how to pivot. Right, Byron?
Absolutely. There's a lot of pivoting going on in business for sure.
So welcome to another episode of Exit Rich. Let's get started. Byron, it's great to have you back on.
Hey, thanks for having me, Michelle.
Great to have you here.
Can't wait to dive into this.
So let's just bring the audience back up to speed. You've been in business how many years again?
We are approaching 30 years. I think this is our 29th year. So
okay.
Long time.
So 29th year. And how old was the business when you went on a Shark Tank?
Oh gosh, it was 2013 we were on. I want to say we were 14 years old at that point. I really had to try to downplay that because we had gone through a lot of ups and downs in those times.
So 14 years old when you went on a Shark Tank, and now you're nearly 30 years old, so 15 years after Shark Tank. Mm-hmm. So the reason I wanted to have you back on is because business owners know that things happen in business. And a lot of times business owners will just give up. But you can't give up. You got to always think and take inventory of your business and really figure out what is the problem. Not so much what are these symptoms, but what is the problem. And so let's talk a little bit about that, Byron, because I know that you say you've had tough times in those 30 years. At what point would you like to start? Before Shark Tank, after Shark Tank, during COVID, the financial cycle?
I can tell you that before Shark Tank, back when 9/11 happened, we were opening mall locations as fast as we could. And I was in Tallahassee, Florida, opening another location when I was in a hotel room and watched the planes hit the Twin Towers. And that's when they shut all the malls down. They did keep the rent receiving department open. By the way, they still demanded rent, but we could not make any sales. So you can imagine how difficult that was. Plus, the world felt like it was ending anyway. So that was a incredibly just crazy, difficult time for everybody in the world, but definitely for anybody operating in a mall.
So what happened?
God, I barely remember what happened. It was all a blur. We did our best like anybody else. It really. You know, the one thing about the 9/11 experience was that our troubles felt insignificant to what was going on. I don't really recall worrying too much about the business and money at that point. So that was kind of a unique experience. And then, you know, when you fast forward to Shark Tank, you know, this bad part is going to seem like something crazy, but you know, after Shark Tank, when we hired a marketing company that taught us how to market online using social media, our sales went through the roof.
So let's pause right there because you're jumping around it quickly. So let's kind of pause right there. So you go on Shark Tank, you get a deal with Lori, you end up changing the deal because you didn't want to lose control of your company.
Well, I can tell you too, going back, I just remembered this. This is another pivot we had to make. In 2009, so we survived 9/11, obviously. And then in 2009, I had a partner, and I bought him out in 2009. And so I was the sole owner of a business that was in debt at that point. And the pivot that I made when I took over, this was a huge one, is that I closed all the mall stores except for the one that I believed in, which was Mall of America. And I focused on this new thing called the internet. And
Okay, so before you go on, let's unpack some things right there. How many retail stores did you have?
I think we had 24 at the peak of it.
And you ended up closing all of those?
All of those except for the one in Mall of America, yeah.
Okay. And did you have existing leases and things like that that you had to buy yourself out of?
I had everything you can imagine. Everything you can, any.
So that was such a drastic move. Why did you decide to close down all 24?
They were really a pain, and one would make money, one would lose money. I didn't feel like I had very good control over it. And most of the people that were working those stores and kiosks that we had were young people, and it was hard to keep them motivated, let's say.
Yeah, and then your product takes a little bit of demonstration.
100% demonstration, constant demonstration.
Yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
so you decided cold turkey, just close all 24. Most business owners don't do that. Most business owners will stage it and say, okay, we're going to keep our profitable ones. We're going to close our non-profitable ones that are really our profitable ones are feeding the non-profitable ones. So it kind of goes back to the 80-20 rule. But 80% of your revenue will come from 20% of your clients, right? So you probably had 80% of your revenue coming from a few of those stores, Mall of America being one of them, obviously.
Right.
Why did you decide to close them all and not just keep the profitable ones?
I think I did.
So the only profitable one was Mall of America?
There's lots of stories involved in that in the mall. We had one person that was like a franchisee, franchised locations, and he had a few stores, and there were groupings of stores too. So they all have their own story, but they were all pretty much a pain compared to what I could do on the internet.
Understood. Okay. So you closed them all. You probably had outstanding rent, outstanding leases you had to pay. You probably had all.
Imagine.
What's that?
I said everything you can imagine. Each one of those locations had its own story and ways that I had to get out of the lease and things like that. Some of them I had to ride out. So, you said in phases. It probably was in phases because, some of them I had to ride out until the lease was done, and some of them I could get out of, and so they all had their own little story to them. But eventually, I did get out of all of them, and in good graces too. I didn't do anything. I didn't have any of the malls coming after me or anything like that, so that was nice. But
That's good.
But yeah, really focused on the internet back then, and back in that time.
Okay, wait, before we get into the internet, I got to pause you again because you like to go from here to here very quickly.
Well, that's what I did. That's what I did. I closed the kiosk and I focused on the internet. So I'm going from where I went to where I went.
Okay, so we closed all of those stores, and you were probably pretty profitable when you closed all those stores with Mall of America, and then we discovered the internet, and then you started advertising before you went on Shark Tank?
So yeah, the internet at that point we were focused on, and we were making a little bit of, we were doing okay. We weren't spending a lot of money like we do now. So back then when we made money, there was a lot of profit in it. But the numbers weren't huge, but it was growing. So I knew it was the way to go. I was able to pay bills with it. I was able to pay off debts. And it was going up and up and up at that point. So
we got away from brick and mortar, and then we went on the internet, and you sold direct to consumer.
Correct.
Okay. That was a big shift too, because your product does take demonstration. How were you able to, obviously close our brick and mortars, but how were you able to transition in the internet when your product requires some demonstration?
Well, I'll tell you what, if you want to really get to know your product and your customer, open up some mall locations and open up a mall kiosk specifically where they don't even have to come into your store. So after doing that for, let's say, 15 years or whatever it was when we decided to close, we had our pitch. We knew if we demonstrated this product, people bought it. and we knew exactly how to do it. We'd done it thousands and thousands of times. So all we had to do was film it and just put it in front of people, and we knew that they would get attention. We had a patent on the product, so we were the only ones making it. So basically, we took what we did in the mall and we just filmed it and kept tweaking it and making it better and better, which is pretty much what we do today.
Okay. But my question was, how did you demonstrate on the internet, because those were new customers you were attracting for direct sales?
The only way you can demonstrate on the internet is by video, so that's how we did it.
So you filmed. I'm starting to spoon feed my audience. You're just jumping.
How else are you supposed to demonstrate on the internet?
So you started doing a lot of video content.
Exactly.
Okay. Because you don't just jump on the internet, my entrepreneurs that are listening to this. You have to really prepare for that. You have to build out your content. You have to do videos, and depending upon your product and services. Okay. So you went on the internet. This was before Shark Tank still, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And then you started doing direct sales.
Mm-hmm.
Was that much better than brick and mortar?
It was, but it had its own problems.
Yes. So brick and mortar has a set of problems. Internet has a set of problems. So go ahead and tell about it.
Keep in mind, we're shipping a very large product. It has to be vacuum packed in order to make it shippable. And therein lies a lot of, nobody was doing this. So we had to basically come up with the ideas for a while. We used shop vacs from Home Depot, and we had guys that just knew how to do it. It was very physical. It was just a very difficult job that also probably didn't pay. Almost like those people that spin pizzas. They probably don't make a ton of money, but if you ever tried to spin a pizza, it's very difficult. So it was kind of the same type of thing. This job was not easy. You had to learn how to do it, and it was a hot warehouse, and they had to do it all day long packing these bean bags. So it was tough back in the day.
Okay. So, but you started making more. You started generating more revenue. Now, what type of advertising did you do on the internet back then? And that was before 2013.
What's funny is I hadn't really thought about this in a long time, but we didn't. I don't even know if we advertised, because I know we weren't doing social media because that wouldn't work for us. We would send out some emails, which back then was free. I don't know how we would advertise. I think it might have just been the people who had seen us at the mall locations or something. We had that list. We did have a pretty good list from having those locations, but every time I tried to advertise, it didn't work. So I didn't think it would work until somebody showed us how to do it.
Okay, and this is still before Shark Tank.
Correct. Yeah.
So you started going direct to consumer. You're not sure how you did it. You had a list from the mall sales, and so you don't know if it was direct email, direct call, but probably no advertising at that point. You go on Shark Tank. That built up sales. Obviously, you got inundated with sales at that point. And then you did QVC, which also increased sales exponentially, correct?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then after Lori's deal with you, that was 5 years, then you went in and started doing advertising, correct?
Yeah, after Lori is when we met the marketing company that put us through the roof on sales at that point.
And you had different shifts in your revenue, because when you were on Shark Tank, I think your revenue was around, was it $3 million?
No, I think it was 1.4, 1.5, something like that.
1.5 million when you were on Shark Tank. And now, again, that's after being in business for 13, 14 years. I want the audience to understand that.
Right.
Then after Shark Tank, you grew from the 1.5 in revenue to what?
Our highest was we almost hit 30 million one year.
Okay, they almost hit. You guys hear this? This is not a story of, this is really a story of entrepreneurship. This is starting a company, being in business for a long time, not really making that much in revenue, 1.4, going on Shark Tank, really figuring out along the way and having to pivot, come almost around every turn, you're having to pivot. So you made up to $30 million. What year was that?
Oh, just a few years back, right during COVID, actually. COVID was a horrible time for a lot of people. For my business, it was not a horrible time because it was a home product, and we were able to keep manufacturing. So our sales went through the roof, like.
So let's talk about that real quick, because again, I don't want to keep cutting you off, and my apologies, but there's a lot to unpack there, because when you say it, it sounds easy, but it's not.
No, no.
So from, I think it was 2013 you were on Shark Tank, right?
Right.
So 2013 you're on Shark Tank at 1.5. And in between Lori probably grew you, how much did the company grow to?
Oh gosh, we probably went to 5 million or so at that point. I can't really recall those numbers. I know that we were growing very quickly at that point, because she and I did QVC for 5 years, and we were selling as many as we could manufacture on QVC. Okay. And of course, that was helping the website out as well.
Okay.
So,
why did you all stop doing QVC?
Lori does not do QVC anymore. She kind of quietly retired from that gig. That's she worked her butt off. That is a very, very laborious. In fact, when I first met her, one of my first questions was, how long can you do this? Because there are nights when they stay up all night long doing those sales. Yeah. It's a tough gig.
Yeah. Well, it was a good gig for her, because look where she is now.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt.
Okay, so you and Lori built a company, 5 million, probably 6 million, 10 million. And so then when Lori was done after 5 years, you went off at QVC. Then what did you do? Because you had to pivot again.
So that was when we went our separate ways, and both of us happy, by the way. No big deal. I didn't feel like we could do any more with her at that point. In fact, she's always there. She said, if I have a great idea that I want to include her in, just give her a call. So we have a great relationship. But after that, we met a marketing company out of California that we met because of Shark Tank. And I think this is a good thing to say about Shark Tank. Like, you don't just go on Shark Tank and get rich. That's not how it works. But there are little things that happen because of it that you need to be ready to take advantage of. The sharks aren't going to do all the work. They're not a magic bullet. But if you can figure out ways to use them and work with them, it's awesome. So because of Shark Tank, I got cold called by a marketing company, and for some reason I answered, and for some reason they convinced me that they would help us and it would actually work. And that's when in Hawaii, I went to Hawaii for 3 weeks, and our sales went from roughly 5,000 on the internet per day to over 300,000. And then another day of 300, another day of 300. And all of a sudden, now I'm stressed for a different reason. Now I'm super stressed because we are not handling this well at all. The product is suffering, the customer service is suffering, and the sales just keep coming in. and
that was through the ad agency.
Yes.
Where you were running ads on social media.
Correct.
Specifically Facebook.
And yeah, Facebook, Instagram, Google, pretty much all of them. Those three mainly. But
and your sales after QVC went from what to what?
I would say after QVC, I can't remember where we were at QVC. 5 or 6 million probably. I don't know. But I know that we like I said, we went up to 29 million and change. I think, call it 30 million.
Okay.
So a huge increase, and it's funny because my entire business life, I had always made fun of people who say don't grow too quickly, because I was like, oh bullshit, I want to grow as fast as possible. And then when I started stressing about my product, and all I could think of was people going on the internet, on social media, and bitching about my product, because I take a lot of pride in what we do and how good it is. And now I'm opening the boxes, and I'm not liking what I'm seeing because my factories are so stressed. And so
it's almost like, I just want to back this train up a little bit, because it's almost like it was overnight success after QVC, or were there, several years before you got to that $29-30 million mark?
I'll tell you, it was everything else was quick but manageable. But when I was in Hawaii, and that website jumped from 5,000 a day to 300,000 a day, that was unbelievable. And like I said,
when you say 5,000, that's 5,000 visitors, 5,000.
$5,000 in sales.
Okay, so
to $300,000 in sales.
So you started the ad campaign, advertising on social media. It went from 5,000 a day, And it jumped up to what?
$300,000 a day, over $300,000 a day. And
Now listen to this, you guys. That
it
is
wasn't,
huge.
yeah, it wasn't just one day either. Back then when it started working, we could push that gas pedal as hard as we wanted to. And it was tough to take, it's tough to say, stop making sales, because you don't want to do that. But looking back at it, I really should have done that while I gathered my thoughts and got my shit together. But we got through.
You grew so fast from $5,000 a day to $300,000 per day. And that could have kept going if you put more ad spend in, I'm sure. That could have kept growing. But you didn't have to sell the foundation to control quality and customer experience.
Yeah,
right?
I thought we had a good foundation. And what you find out when you grow that quickly is that, you don't have enough customer service people. You don't have enough. I went and built a factory. I don't know anything about building a factory, but my factory, the company that was handling it for us wasn't moving quickly enough. So I went and bought the machinery and built the factory myself.
How long did that take?
Too long.
So this is a huge growth problem he's talking about. Like, he always thought it was crazy when somebody said you don't want to go too fast. I've helped my clients grow from, like, I've helped a group of medical clinics grow from pretty much 0 patients to 150, 200 patients overnight.
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't have the foundation.
Right.
And that's with any industry, any business. If you go too fast and you don't build that solid foundation, then you're going to crash and burn. Then, like you said earlier, Byron, you could have negative feedback on the internet. Well, which was like, wow, Byron, nobody wants that.
I'd also add that it's tough to build the foundation before you need it. It's a balancing act, because, you're not going to go build a factory that you don't need. So I don't know. It's always a balancing act, especially when you're in production.
We didn't know you were going to go from 5,000 to 300,000.
I had no idea.
That quick either. So what were your biggest struggles? Because I like to frame everything around the 6 P's that we talk about in my book, Exit Rich, which are people, product, processes, proprietary assets, patrons, and profits. So out of those 6 P's, what do you feel was the biggest weakness in the foundation? What were the cracks?
Almost all of them. I mean, we didn't have enough. I mean, we had our patent, so that part was okay.
Okay.
But as far as everything else goes, the product was suffering. We needed more people.
So you didn't have enough people. You were lacking people. You were probably working really hard and working around the clock.
Well,
go ahead.
We had also, anytime somebody needed this product, we'll just say beanbags. Anytime somebody said they needed beanbags, I could always confidently say, we can make so many that you're not going to stress us out. Because that's how it always was. Because we could make. We were very efficient. We just didn't expect to go to those numbers. And so, my attitude, it's weird to say this now, but back in the day, I didn't even have a grasp that our factory had a maximum. You know what I mean? Like we could always make so many that I was like, we'll figure it out. But no, when you go to those numbers, it exposes every single hole in your game.
I like that express. So yeah, because think about it. I mean, you went from ground zero, pretty much, not ground zero, but 5,000 a day to 300,000 a day. You didn't probably have the right people. Your product was suffering. So you have to pivot really quickly, because what happens is most businesses will crash and burn, and they usually can't get back to where they were when that happened because of too many negative comments, too many issues in the business. How were you able to pivot so quickly to be able to handle that volume?
Well, one thing we always do is we make the customer happy. So no matter what, like I said before, I believe my customer service people are always instructed to make the customer happy. So we tried to answer, I believe we did answer every single comment, every single message, every single complaint, anything that was happening. We all just took a chunk of it and started just going through it. We didn't have, these days, all of our messages come into a single board like Zendesk or Gorgeous or something like that. So back in the day, we were getting messages from God, there were messages on the ads themselves. There were messages in the message section. They were just all scattered. I couldn't even.
But you answered every single one of them.
We all just took a chunk and started going through them. Yeah.
So this is very important what he said, because it doesn't sound like, oh, it's wrong. It doesn't sound like, oh my gosh, that's so huge what they did. It's really not huge. It's a simple thing.
Right.
Get in touch, follow up, answer everybody, take care of the client, and make sure you improve that experience, even if the company's having issues. By reaching out, following up, taking care of the client, you ended up having really good clients, happy clients, and then I'm sure they came back to you, even though you had big problems. You were able to take care of that because you addressed it face on. And so many business owners never follow up with messages. They never follow up with emails. They never follow up with their clients, and that's one of the biggest issues. But yeah, it's the easiest thing to do.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people these days don't even want to talk to their customers. At Corduroy's, you can always call and talk to a knowledgeable person. In fact, they're sitting right over here. When you call us, you're going to talk to one of our customer service representatives here. They know what they're talking about. They're not in some house somewhere answering the phone for other companies. So it's really, it's like my dad would always say about Craftsman tools. He goes, I could find this, if I find a wrench in the ditch and it's broken, I take it to Sears and they replace it, no questions asked. So, and I always remembered things like that about lifetime guarantees and how to treat customers and stuff like that. And, just do the right thing.
So the 6 Ps, he really took the patrons, which is his clientele, and tackled that one first. Then I'm sure you had to work on people. You had to work on building out your manufacturing unit, your manufacturing facility. So that was a lot all at once. How sustainable was that $300,000 a day? How long did that last?
We could pretty much, maybe not, I don't know if it was that number, but back when we started learning how to do it, I used to call it an accelerator pedal. We could have a sale and it was like pushing a gas pedal. The sales would just come flooding in all the time. It lasted that way until about 2 years ago.
Okay. So you made a lot of money. Like you said, got up to about $30 million in revenue. You don't need to talk about your profits, but I know you're profitable. But then all of a sudden, bam, you're on a social media train, you're advertising, you're getting in $200,000 a day, $300,000 a day, a lot more than $5,000 a day. And finally, in 25 years, you figured it out, you're making a ton of money. And then what happens?
I'd say about 2 years ago, when you become reliant upon the internet, there's this thing called an algorithm. And that algorithm decides everything on social media. And that's something that's controlled by Zuckerberg and his people and of course, Google. The word on the street is that they changed the algorithm and basically tried to see how much money they could make, meaning that our cost of acquisition, our cost to gain a new customer, all of a sudden overnight just went through the roof. And we could not figure out why that happened. And when an algorithm changes, it is very difficult to figure out because it's not nature. Nature doesn't change that fast. And so we struggled really throwing money at it, trying to beat it, trying to figure it out. And then we finally, nowadays we understand what's going on. We pivoted again, as you like to say. We realized that we were going to have to accept this new reality. It wasn't going to be 30 million a year. But it was also going to be profitable. So we got it figured out now. And then actually we're on the way back up right now.
How did you figure it out? It took you 2 years, and I know revenues dropped.
Well, the main thing we had to stop thinking about the top line and start thinking about the MER, which is the media efficiency ratio, or another way to say that would be the ROAS. And so we just figured before we were pushing so hard to try to get that top line where it needed to be. And then we finally came to our senses and said, you know what, we're just going to have to make money, even if it's not the money we're accustomed to making, and ride this thing out and make some adjustments as we can, but stop losing money. trying to be
Because you went from 29 million down to what? You dropped pretty quickly, almost like overnight.
Yeah, when that happened, it was really crazy how well
you dropped down to 10 million, 15 million, Byron?
Maybe 17.
17. So you went from 30 million down to 17 million.
Yeah.
Overnight. Okay,
yeah.
That would be the kiss of death of business, guys. Go ahead, Byron.
Yeah, a lot of things happen there where for various reasons, furniture is down because of interest rates and things like that. So anybody you talk to in mattresses or furniture will tell you that they're down 40 or 50%. So us being a type of furniture, a little bit different type, but we are furniture. We had that issue because we do have wholesale accounts, which are furniture stores that sell our products. So all of those are down. Shipping from China got expensive. China took over Amazon in our department, so they started shipping directly from China. They just come in and they're category killers when they do that. So a lot of weird things. You know what? I think when you're making a lot of money, you better be prepared to be a target. You know what I mean? I mean, you're going to be the target for lawsuits. You're going to be the target for people coming in and saying, it's like if you're catching a lot of fish, the other boats are going to come around eventually, you know?
Yeah. I mean, there was a lot to unpack there because you obviously, you dropped nearly half, and in a very, almost overnight, you had a lot of different issues you just talked about. Number one was the algorithm changed, and then basically China, kicked you off of Amazon. Was able to beat you from Amazon. And so there's a lot of issues that was associated with this. And again, he had to pivot. That's why I always say you want to have multiple marketing channels and not just one. Like before you had retail stores, and you do have a retail store, you're standing in your retail store. If you had retail stores, you had internet. You didn't really have internet business. You got rid of retail, then you added internet. Then all your money kind of was in the social media, but then you have wholesalers too then, right?
Right.
Okay. So you have two different ways that you're kind of getting paid through channels. One channel was social media, the other channel was wholesalers. I always tell my clients you want at least 4 to 6 different marketing channels you can get paid, because if one dies, like Facebook, and you've got other ones that you can rely upon. Yeah, and so that's a really good lesson for these entrepreneurs. Okay, so how are you fixing it? Because you can't really go back and fix the algorithm. So what did you pivot to?
Well, one thing I was going to tell you is if you're working in a business like this where you have manufacturing and you have sales, it seems like there's very few times when they're both absolutely perfect. And when they are, celebrate those times. Because like, for instance, right now, our sales dropped, but I got to tell you, our manufacturing, every other part of my business is so strong, it would blow your mind. We figured out so many things that were lifelong, that were life of the business long problems that we have figured out now. And we are so locked and loaded. And of course, right about that time is when sales dropped. So now sales are starting to come back up, and I'm sure something will happen with manufacturing at that point, but hopefully not. But it's always one or the other. So we're ready for it to kind of shift back to where it was. So what did we do to figure it out? I think one of the main things is we had to accept it. We were losing a lot of money because we were not accepting the reality that it just happened so fast. We couldn't accept, we could not figure out how it happened so fast. And now that we understand what happened with the algorithm, it all makes sense. But when it just happens really fast like that, you think you're doing something wrong with marketing, so you throw more money at it, because you do have to put a lot of money into marketing. If you don't put enough there, it's like going to the blackjack table with $20. You might as well just give it to them. So you have to put enough money behind the marketing to make it work. So we just were refusing to believe that it wasn't working. We just kept pumping and pumping and pumping, and it was losing money. So when
at some point you got to stop.
Well, we did. Yeah, exactly. At some point you have to accept the new reality and say, okay, we are not going to do 30 million this year, because every day, every month we were comparing and we're like, gosh, this is way off. So finally we had to accept that and focus on what was right, and just hold that ROAS, hold that MER, and ride this thing out while we figured it out. So We've done that recently, and our sales.
What did you figure out? What was it? What did you figure out?
Well, the main thing was just stop throwing money at it and maintain profitability, even if it wasn't the profit that we were used to. That's
you
probably
can't change the algorithm. So what are you doing now on social media?
But it does change. I've heard recently that it sort of backfired on them, and they are working to make changes on that now. Instead of focusing on, I know that Google is coming after them hard right now because of what happened. It's more profitable now in some cases to advertise on Google than it is on Meta. I can only go so deep into this because my team, I got a really, really, really good team that handles this, and I'm probably the worst one to talk to about the details of it. But I can tell you that we've done a lot of different things, a lot of different testing on types of media, types of ads, the number of ads.
Not the same agency?
Oh yeah. I mean, it's us. It's my team here, along with we sub out the media buying, we sub out the email, stuff like that. So
do you think you're going to get back to that 30?
Oh, for sure, definitely, no doubt.
Because you made a statement not to expect 30 million anymore, and I wanted to say, well, wait a minute, let's not say that. Let's not.
Well, it won't be this year.
Well, let me just finish. Let's not lower expectations.
Right.
That. We're not going to be a $30 million company anymore, because you are going to be a $30 million company. You might drop in revenue and profits for a bit, but you're going to figure it out. And once the $30 million company, I always talk about one of my favorite books by T. Harv Eker is The Millionaire Mindset. And everybody has a financial thermostat. And when I hire people, especially on my sales team and in different companies, if you haven't made $100,000, I'm not going to hire you, because if you haven't made it before, you're not going to make it here. Right. And you got the company up to $30 million. That's a financial thermostat. That's an internal financial thermostat. So we don't want to say, oh, we're not going to make $30 million anymore. Not 30,000, 30 million. We're not going to make 30 million anymore, because we are, but we just got to figure out how to change that, because business is all about innovation. It's all about shifting. It's all about pivoting. It's all about staying up with the trends. I always say staying up with the times and the trends. And I always say you either growing or dying. There's no in between. And most businesses stop doing what I call AIM. AIM is always innovate and market. Always innovate and market, which is what you're doing and what you're growing at. Of doing. All right. So you're going to get back up to that $30 million mark.
Yeah, definitely.
How many times have you pivoted in 30 years?
30 years, a lot. I need some oil. I need some oil on my pivot.
But you're a great entrepreneur because you figure it out. You change direction. You don't see it as failure. You see it as an opportunity to continue to succeed. Correct?
Yeah, and one thing, if you read it, I'm sure you've read a lot about different businesses, and one thing that it's comforting to me that any business you go and read about, I don't care if it's Coca-Cola, Levi's, whoever it might be, there was some point when everything was shit, and they thought it was over, and that is just the nature of business, and you got to remember that everybody goes through it. Take a deep breath, and sometimes you just got to ride it out while you're figuring it out.
Yeah, you got to write it out, but you got to make some serious adjustments and expenses. Mm-hmm. Because if revenue drops, profit drops, and expenses can't stay the same, obviously.
And you know what? That's not a bad thing either. I mean, the cuts that we've made during this, slow time really needed to be made anyway. And so when you're making, I'm guilty of this. When everything's great, I will let a lot of things slide. When things get bad, that's, what's the old saying? When the tide waters recede, the naked swimmers are exposed. So we made a lot of cuts, but we made cuts that needed to be made. So.
But what you said is what all entrepreneurs do. Everybody's like, it's great. And there could be some really big issues, and they're not getting the attention they need because everything is good and everything's great because you're making money. When really you should be looking at the 6 Ps and really looking at the foundation and see if there's any cracks. Before you really try to grow too fast. It's important to build
do you
that.
think that, do you think that would it be a safe statement to say that you should always be thinking about your exit strategy too? I mean, especially when times are good, because I think when times are good, a lot of times people don't think about it. And I know I was guilty of that.
Yeah, so you're absolutely right, and that's what Exit Rich is all about, and that's what I've been teaching and preaching and speaking about over the last 26 years since I've been in this industry. That's the biggest mistake, Byron, that most business owners make, is they never really think about exiting. They never really think about selling their company. And they never really think about it because they just think, oh, I'm going to run this forever. I love what I do. I'm passionate about what I do. I'm just going to keep running it. And they don't really think about, hey, this is the most valuable asset in my life. It's more valuable than my home. It's more valuable than typically financial portfolios. It's usually the most valuable thing in a business owner's life, but they never look at it that way. And they never think about exiting until a catastrophic event has occurred. Health issues, divorce, partner disputes, COVID, all kinds of different things that can cause somebody to sell. Burnout is a big one. And guess what? The business is failing. Mm-hmm. And businesses go through these cycles. They go through these cycles where they're doing really, really well, like you have, and they go through these cycles where, oh my gosh, they almost crash and burn and lose half of their revenue. And then that's when they want to sell. That's the worst time you can sell.
Right.
The most important thing is to sell when your business is doing well, trending up and not trending down. It's very difficult to sell a business trending down because that can now become what's called a turnaround. And there's turnaround buyers out there, but you're not going to get your best price. So you really should be planning your exit from the beginning and building that solid foundation on the 6 Ps. And that's what every business owner should do, because then when you are ready to sell, you don't have to do all of that work. And you don't have to go and say, oh my gosh, I need a management team. Oh my gosh, I need those non-competes. Oh my gosh, I need multiple profit centers. Oh, I need transferable contracts. Oh, I need a federal trademark on my company name. Because you've already done all of that. So when you build a solid foundation on the 6 Ps, you're building those synergies that buyers will pay a much higher multiple for.
Right. I think also, I'm sure you've seen a lot of this too, and I was guilty of it. I think until you go through it, you don't really understand it, but you think that when things are great, you think they're always going to be great. You think, okay, we've made it to the part, we made it through the hard part. Now things are great, and they're just going to get greater because now we know what we're doing. But there's things that are like the China thing on Amazon. I never would have predicted that. Our sales were just going up and up and up. I just figured we were just going to keep going up, right? What else are you going to figure? And but I think when things are good, you have to remember that something is eventually going to happen, and it's not going to be good forever.
Yeah, nothing lasts forever. I mean, look at Toys R Us. I can give you example after example after example. I mean, at one point they were worth $11 billion.
Mm-hmm.
$11 billion. Then 2 years later, they filed for bankruptcy. They filed Chapter 11. Then they ended up closing all their stores down, and now they're trying to rebirth and come back. It's called, it's like the cycle of life. You're born, you're an infant, then you become, you're a newborn, and you're taller. And it's the same thing with a business until death. And the business is the same way. Business gets born, right? It's an incubator stage.
And what we're discussing here is the reason that Zuckerberg, we'll call it, his team or whatever it was, changed that algorithm was because Facebook is dying. It's because the kids are not on Facebook. So I don't know where the age stops, but I know my daughter is going on 19. She is not on Facebook at all. None of her friends are on Facebook. So Facebook will become like Yahoo and like AOL and things like that. It'll probably always be around, but it won't be what it is today, and it's already dying. So basically, he just decided to start making as much money as he could with it to supply some of the failed things like metaverse and AI and things like that, where they've blown through many billions of dollars. So to your point, even something as big as Facebook can die.
Absolutely. And you made a very good point there, because if everybody should advertise. Everybody should have multiple channels. You should have at least 6 to 7 different resources that will bring clients to your door. And that could be all different things. It could be speaking events. It could be advertising. It could be on Amazon. It could be, retail store, all different. There's all
being on your
models.
podcast.
Yeah, podcasts. But if you're going to go and advertise, like you just made a great point, Byron, that you really have to know your audience. You have to know your ideal client because, like you just said, if you're selling to the younger ones, don't go on Facebook, go on TikTok. If you're selling to older people, like my clientele is mostly baby boomers, if you're selling to the older generation, then I'm great on Facebook. I'm not good on TikTok.
Right.
So you really got to know who your audience is.
Right.
But you shared a lot of great golden nuggets here today. Anything you'd like to leave our audience with?
Buy a corduroy's beanbag. You don't have to buy just one. You can buy as many as you want.
Your golden nugget is buy. That's hilarious. Anything you'd like to leave our audience with other than buy a beanbag? By the way, I'm going to buy a pink one for my daughter.
Cool. She'll love it and it'll last forever. So there you go.
And I just said it right here.
I don't think I have anything else I can think of saying. I've said so much. I'm good at answering questions, but I don't know if I have anything just to say. So I appreciate
you, Byron. I think you said a lot already. There was a lot to unpack there. I really appreciate all of your feedback. I appreciate you telling your story. It's also, he's vulnerable. It's also, you got to be vulnerable. And a lot of entrepreneurs don't want to talk about their failures. Well, we all have failures. You're not an entrepreneur unless you failed many times. Right. And so talk about those failures, because what he just said here was packed with a lot of lessons for all of you entrepreneurs, no matter what stage you are in your business. So thank you, Byron, for being on the second time. And thank you to my audience for tuning in every episode of Exit Rich. I know this was a lot of great content. Please share it with your network. Remember, your network equals your net worth. Get the message out, and we'll see you next time on Exit Rich. If you haven't subscribed to Exit Rich, please do so now. Thank you. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening to the Exit Rich podcast. Don't forget to check out Michelle Seiler Tucker's Build to Sell Blueprint books and Exit Rich, along with more blogs, videos, and resources at exitrichpodcast.com. Be sure to connect with Michelle on Facebook or LinkedIn and stay tuned for her next episode by subscribing in your favorite podcast player.